The Bloody Podcassacre with Zac Walters and Kennedy Catherine.
This is my favorite horror movie of all time.
I know it is.
For those listening.
I wish you guys were in the room right now. We have got merch. Fourth merch because there is 4 items of merch.
Yes, only one of them is actually benefiting them because these I both bought off Etsy. I have one pin from the Idol Collective.
It's beautiful.
Gorgeous. And then this one from Dark Cult.
Also beautiful. I can't really see that one because of the lighting.
Yeah, this one's Danny, but it's like a little bit.
It's so pretty. Why aren't they on anything?
Well, I have a whole pin. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I have a whole pin flag in my room.
Oh, no, I haven't.
My friend's mom made it for me for Christmas one year. And I just feel like I don't want to put these on there yet.
Mm-hmm. Also, you're wearing a I Survived Midsommar shirt, and then behind you is a Midsommar album, vinyl.
Yes, the soundtrack.
You truly are walking PR for this movie.
I know.
You talk about it a lot.
I'm fully committed to get a Danny May Queen tattoo.
As you should. What kind do you want? What do you want it to look like?
I do have a picture saved.
Okay.
I will show it to you.
Oh, I'll also say while you're looking this up, this is the Bloody Podcassacre. That's Zac Walters. I'm Kennedy Catherine, and we are going to do Midsommar.
There's this one I really like, which is just like
her covered in the flowers.
Yes, mostly that's like what I want is her covered in like the flowers.
She looks like a little slug in that scene.
I know, and
she's so cute. Okay.
There was also this one I saw, which was more like, I think it's like a little mountain or something, but it's...
What is that supposed to be?
It's supposed to be her, but it's like not actually her face.
Oh, it looks like a little ghost kind of in amongst some florals.
But yeah, I definitely want that. I saw someone on Reddit got like a bear and like flames and like all like the runes tattooed on his thigh. And I was like, wow.
That's a commitment.
I know.
Also.
Full color too.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I have no color tattoos. No interest
in
that.
Neither do
I. That bear scene was a fear realized for me. Like, I did not know that is something that I never want to happen in my life so fiercely that I would give a limb to avoid that. Not even the part where he gets set on fire in the bear, but like if you put me inside of an animal carcass, I think my will to live would simply I'd evaporate.
Well, I mean, in his perspective, he's also paralyzed. He's literally incapable of doing anything anymore.
But we don't know that he's not feeling it all.
Well, they don't. They do. Because...
Fuck, that's so terrible. It's a bad way to go.
Ugh, but they thought it was something good.
They thought they did something with that. And they kind of did.
They did.
They did.
Comparing this to Hereditary, because this is by Ari Asters as well, it's still kind of like a slow burn movie, but also a 180 of what Hereditary is. Hereditary is like all the scary stuff happens at night and it's like very dark. This movie takes place in the daytime. There's one nighttime scene.
I love that about this movie. It's so beautifully lit. The colors, the set design, everything about it is so stunning and yet horrifying.
Yes, it is. There's a lot of like dark imagery. Like it is gruesome at some points.
Something that I didn't really put together in my mind the first time I watched it is all of the literal symbols that are carved into doors and things like that. Oh.
We have another Midsommar fan in the house.
I also have very similar symbols tattooed on me.
Apparently they're like just like they're runic symbols.
Which is what this is.
One thing that I want to talk about why I love this movie so much is because I found when I was writing my notes for this is that like we've kind of touched on it, but like horror in the past like 5-ish years has kind of like moved away from it being this jump scare, just gore factor and actually like building character and storylines within like just one film versus like a series. And that's why I really like this movie. It's because there's so much character development. And like Hereditary did that too. I think it's just Ari Aster and his writing style. And he doesn't want to put out something mundane.
Well, something that there's no real connection to. You can watch a lot of horror movies where you just feel nothing for any of the people.
Yeah.
That might be intentional in some way. These movies combine such an emotional element that you feel emotionally involved and connected to these people, and that is part of the horror.
Yeah.
And that's what we felt in Hereditary too, is like you feel a part a part of it is so horrifying because you feel for these people so much. Did you know that Ari Asters wrote this while he was going through a breakup? That made a lot of sense to me when you look at it.
I did know that.
Yeah.
There is some, like, other things that I feel like maybe I should save for later, some fun facts.
Okay.
But did you know that Jordan Peele said that this was the most atrociously disturbing imagery he's ever seen on film?
I did actually know that.
Which is very interesting because I think that Jordan Peele, with his entrance into horror,
who is such a genius.
yes,
Oh my
has
God.
been, like, has had some really, really good imagery.
Us
Yes.
is incredible in terms of imagery. Like, because Get Out was amazing, but that was more psychological.
But yeah, Us had some really great imagery, like having the doubles and having that be, And so it's interesting to see, like, people be like, that was so disturbing, but also I'm like, you also create disturbing things.
One of the things that's sort of great about Midsommar is it's so disturbing in so many different ways, and that it really plays to whatever your fear and your personal feelings are, because I was saying that if you can make it through the first 10 minutes, that you'll be fine for the rest of the movie. But a lot of people don't agree with that, because that beginning scene where we know Danny, the main character played by Florence Pugh, her sister and her parents, her sister kills herself and their parents with carbon monoxide, and it's extremely graphic. That was a really disturbing portrayal of what can happen with mental illness. But for other people, you know, maybe the death scene from the cliff, or even things that happen later on in the film are going to be the most disturbing. So it appeals to different fears in different ways. And
I think that, like, when I went to the theater numerous times, everyone that I went with had such a different opinion on it. And so it's interesting to see, like you're saying, like, how everybody can be scared at something. But I know also a lot of people don't find this movie scary at all. And I think that that's a shitty take on it, is all I'm going to say.
I don't disagree with that it's not scary, but it also depends. I think we'll have this conversation forever.
Yeah.
That it all depends on what you define as a feeling of terror. This movie doesn't, it makes me so uncomfortable. It makes me really disturbed. But it's not a jump scare, which, you know, it depends on your definition of scare.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize until I started reading reviews and talking to people about it that this movie was so polarizing, because I just thought point blank, this is an incredible movie. And a lot of people didn't feel that way.
I know. Before we jump into the synopsis, have you heard of Ari Asters' new film?
No.
So A24 they're putting out a new film. Ari Asters directing it. It's called Disappointment Boulevard. And Joaquin Phoenix is set to star in it.
I had to swallow my coffee. You actually sent me an article about this.
Oh, I don't remember. I'm interested to see if it's going to be, once again, like a family-related thriller drama, or if it's going to be like a horror.
This guy's working through some feelings in his movies.
Yes. Also, realized he loves to deal with head trauma. Like, physical head trauma.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about, like, Hereditary versus Midsommar, which is not really a fair conversation to have.
No.
It's whatever. I actually forgot when I was watching this the second time that it was an Ari Aster film until the very end. Then I realized, I was trying to think, you know, if somebody has seen Hereditary and loved it, would I then say, well, as a byproduct, you'll love Midsommar? And I was like, well, not necessarily. And then I was like, oh, well, some of the scares, like the actual, like, disturbing imagery is quite similar. Head trauma.
Yeah. I had a friend who disliked Hereditary but loved Midsommar.
Yeah, I can see that.
And, like, it's just, I do think that they're two completely separate films, even
They are.
though, but it's the story of them is two completely
So
different
different.
things.
Yeah.
Shall we get into the synopsis?
Sure. Let's do it. Danny, a college student, is traumatized after her sister kills herself and their parents by filling their home with carbon monoxide. The incident strains Danny's relationship with her emotionally distant boyfriend, cultural anthropology student Christian. She later learns that Christian and his friends Mark and Josh have been invited by their mutual Swedish friend Pelle to attend a Midsommar celebration at Pelle's ancestral commune. The celebration occurs once every 90 years, and Josh, also an anthropology student, wants to write his thesis on it. Christian hid the trip from Danny, wanting to break up with her before leaving, but invites her along after she finds out, thinking she won't actually come. But she does, and the group flies to Sweden and arrives at the commune, where they meet Simon and Connie, an English couple from London who were invited by Pelle's communal brother. He offers the group psychedelic mushrooms, and Danny has hallucinations of her sister while under the influence. Pelle gives Danny a drawing for her birthday, and then he pulls Christian aside to remind him that he forgot about the day. Later, the group witnesses a tradition which sees 2 commune elders attempt to kill themselves by leaping from a cliff onto a rock. When one of the elders survives the fall, the commune members mimic his wails of agony and crush his skull with a mallet, while a commune elder attempts to calm Danny and her friends by explaining how it is normal for every member to do this once they reach the age of 72. The scene deeply disturbs them, but they decide to stay long enough for Josh to finish his thesis. Christian also decides to write his thesis on the commune, creating a rift between him and Josh, who accuses him of copying his idea. Danny attempts to leave, but Pelle convinces her to stay. While Simon and Connie decide to leave, an elder tells Connie that Simon has already left without her. Suspicious, she decides to leave on her own. Later, a woman's wail is heard in the distance. After Mark unwittingly urinates on an ancestral tree and incites the fury of the commune, he is lured away during a dinner. That night, Josh sneaks into a temple to take a photograph of the commune's sacred text, which an elder had previously forbade him from doing. He sees a man wearing Mark's clothes and skinned face and is hit over the head from behind, after which his body is dragged away. The next day, Danny is coerced into taking more psychedelic drugs and ends up winning a maypole dancing competition, subsequently being crowned May Queen. At the same time, Christian is drugged and coerced into a sex ritual designed to impregnate a younger female member of the commune, while older naked female members watch and mimic her moans. After discovering Christian having sex, Danny has a panic attack, during which the commune's younger women surround her and mimic her cries. After the ritual, Christian comes to his senses and tries to run away. He discovers Josh's leg planted in a flower bed and Simon's body turned into a blood eagle in a barn before being paralyzed by an elder. The commune leaders explain to Danny that to purge the commune of its evil, 9 human sacrifices must be offered. The first 4 victims are outsiders lured to them, while the next 4 victims must be commune members. As May Queen, Danny must choose either Christian or a local villager to be the 9th and final victim. She chooses to sacrifice Christian, who is stuffed into a disemboweled bear's body and placed in a small wooden temple alongside the other sacrifices. The temple is set on fire, and the commune members celebrate by mimicking the screams and wails of those being burned alive. Initially, Danny sobs in horror, but gradually she begins to smile. Whew!
Wow.
I have so many feelings.
First off, This is literally just a breakup movie. It's a breakup movie. I cried watching it the second time.
For what reason?
I cried because, so the first time it was just like initial watch, no idea really what's happening.
Right.
The second time I was like, every time I go into a movie the second time, I always am either I loved it the first time and I like get hooked with the soundtrack and then I re-listen and then I get really emotional with it. And so that happened with this. But you realize that like the Hargas, the village people.
The commune members. The cult members, if you will.
They're not the villains in this movie at all. They can be, but like it's just their traditions, and they literally are opening their arms to Danny to be like a new welcoming family for her, and to like rid her of all the toxic relationships in her life and build her like this new healthy life with them.
It reminds me a little bit of the Green Inferno in the sense that there is not necessarily an explicit good or evil.
Mm-hmm. The only evil in this movie is Christian.
Can we talk about this for a second? Because, okay, here's the thing. I feel like on just like a superficial level, when you're watching this and you're like, fuck this guy, because honestly, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
And when he dies, you're like, get yours. I'm glad you sacrificed your stupid boyfriend. On a second watch, just actually thinking about like, if this situation was in real life, how unfortunate that is, because I mean, I think most people have been in a situation where you're in a relationship, you know it's not going to work, you know it's not working out, but then something happens in that person's life and you're like, and now I can't leave because if I abandon this person, I would be the root of all evil in this world. And so he's kind of in a situation where he can't leave her. And yeah, is he the worst? Absolutely. But like, I genuinely just look at them as 2 people who needed to break up, like, I don't know.
Years ago.
3 years ago of the 3.5 years that they've been together. Yeah.
And like, I just like every scene he's in. Also, it doesn't help that his friends, I mean, I see both sides, like you're saying, where it's like his friends are completely awful to Danny, other than Pelle.
Who's Pelle?
But, like, Mark is so awful to her.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, also, we never explicitly know, like, what her relationships are outside of this friend group and her boyfriend's friend group. Because she has a phone call with someone when she takes an Ativan.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. We never hear about anybody else.
Mm-mm.
It kind of seems like she's alone for, like, majority of the movie, which is why when it comes to the end and she's, like, smiling and happy, I'm like, wow, she's not alone anymore. Am I getting emotional?
Yes, you are. I can see it in your eyes. They're getting a little red. Are you going to shed tears before the end of this podcast?
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'm ready for it if you do.
One thing I read that Ari Asters said about this movie was that he sees the film being a perversive wish fulfillment fantasy, and that Christian and his friends, they're all walking into a folk horror movie, and that's what the movie's going to be for them. But for Danny, by the end, it's just like a fairy tale only for her.
Oh, that's a really beautiful way of putting it. And do you know what's funny is him calling it a folk horror. It really had undertones to me that were reminiscent of The Wicker Man.
Mm-hmm. It's very, like, I think it was inspired by The Wicker Man and something else, and I don't remember what that second film is.
Okay, because Wicker Man is one of the few movies that I know quite well. That's a
You've
folk
seen
horror.
it?
Yeah, I actually I know, like, I am not a what's his name?
Did he direct it?
No. He starred in it. What's his face? There's two Wicker Men. There's an original from the 70s, and then there's a remake that's like early 2000s.
With that one has Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. Yes. Okay, this movie came out in 2006. Not a Nicolas Cage fan myself, but I've seen that movie an incredible amount of times. It's one of my weird comfort horror movies. I've seen it so much because I really do think there's something beautiful about the way that these cults, if you will, because this is not a reflection of a real commune in Sweden. No. They know. There's an awareness that this is not totally kosher, not cool.
Yeah.
But I like this sort of, these practices that to the outside world seem so evil, but to them, like, it's so real. And there's this meaning behind it that is quite beautiful, even though the action in and of itself is, like, violent and horrifying. The Wicker Man has the same thing where he goes to this island to find this woman who was once in the real world with him, and it was all a ploy. Same type of thing as Pele. Folk horror is a very interesting thing. I think it's something that I love, and I'm just realizing that now.
I have not seen The Wicker Man, either versions, but I do really want to watch the old one. I just haven't sat down and done it yet.
You should. It's good.
And I think that I will really like it. Another really good thing about this movie is I personally have never experienced this, but from what I've read online and from the actors, like who have watched the movie after filming, is the visualizations of the drug trip.
Let me talk about this then, because yes, and I made that comment the first time that I saw it. I was like, this is the most accurate depiction of the visuals. They're so often portrayed as almost being like acid, which they're not, where the actual, like, your interpretation of what's around you is incorrect to the point of, like, creating, like, manifesting an image, which some people tell stories of that stuff happening to them on, like, mushrooms. This has never happened to me. I don't know anybody that's happened to. It just kind of creates a different texture or patterns to things that are pre-existing. And it is so incredibly well done in this movie that if you're a person who has experienced mushrooms, you watch it feeling like, am I on mushrooms?
I remember watching it in the theater being like, am I okay?
Yeah.
Because I was like, my brain kind of hurts. Because it's never, very few times does it actually warp like a character's face. More towards the end it does. And
it does also in the first scene when they take the mushrooms and he's like, do you want to come meet my friends?
Yes, when Ingmar.
You can kind of see that they've just slightly manipulated their faces in a way that is so, reminiscent of that actual experience.
But like, even when you're watching just like Danny, like, sitting, the foreground is just like slowly moving. And like, do you know what I found out doing a little bit more background research just for like more content about the movie? The person who played Mark, I can't remember his name, the eagle eyebrows, he's the only American actor in this movie. Everybody else is from Sweden or like Ireland, Great Britain.
Oh.
And they filmed this movie in Hungary.
Where's Christian?
He's Irish.
Interesting.
He was born in Colorado, but he is like fully Irish.
And Josh? He's been in a lot of American films.
Yes, but I do believe that he is American. I mean,
British?
Yes. And same with Florence. She's also English.
I know, that throws me for a loop every time.
I know.
God, she's beautiful.
She is Honestly, this was the first movie I've seen with her.
Me too.
And she is a phenomenal actress.
She really is. I loved her in this. You know, you see somebody in one thing and you don't know what their acting range is. And then I went and saw Little Women on Christmas Day, not this past Christmas, the one before. And I was blown away.
When she's talking about her little feet.
She's just adorable. And I texted you about this yesterday too, how... Yeah, I'm not trying to make a statement about her body because she's not a plus-size woman. She's one of the first people that I've seen on screen that just kind of looks like me. She has a little bit of a tummy. She wears really regular clothes. Her makeup is probably never really done. Her hair's never really done. And I was just like, oh, amazing. But she still is of a superior...
Yes, being to everybody else in this world.
She's gorgeous.
One thing that also, I talked about it briefly a little bit, but the sound design and the soundtrack itself in this movie are so ethereal. I listened to Fire Temple, which is the last track on this album, and the final song. It was my top song of 2019, I'm pretty sure.
How long is that song?
9 minutes. But it's really, I always say, the best part of the song is if you're scrolling like on Spotify or Apple Music, you have to go past the pause sign, like to the halfway point, and that's where the good part of the song starts. I love it. Absolutely love it. Bobby Krilic, he's the one who created it. Bobby Krilic.
Great job, Bobby. I really like the soundtrack as well, but it gives me anxiety. So whenever you've talked about, because I've known for a long time that you listen to that to accompany your day, I'm like, I couldn't do it.
The second song is called Gassed, and in the sound...
That's real on the nose.
Yeah, and I just have to play it for you.
Okay.
But in the soundtrack version, they have Florence Pugh's, that sounded weird saying it, crying at the beginning.
Ari Asters knows how to cast a woman who can cry.
Yes.
God damn it.
Okay, I have to play this for you.
That's really Rob Zombie-y. Rob Zombie has a lot of audio from his movies and his music.
Ugh. And I just like, when I'm listening to it, I'm always just like, get like chills, because I'm like, that scene also where she calls Christian and she's like just crying, and then she's just sitting on his lap, well, like curled into his lap crying, and it goes into like the opening like credits.
Yeah.
I was like, we're in for a great movie.
You can even tell in the scene when he comes to her place and like he's walking up, and when he's holding her, there's such a disconnect.
Yeah, he's like, it's
He's
like that
just
thing where
there.
he has to be there
Yeah.
physically, but mentally he's like,
I'm out.
Yeah, he does not want to be there.
No, he's miserable.
Ugh, what an asshole. I hate him.
What an asshole, 100%. And also, what a shit situation to be in.
I know. I think, though, they had like 2 weeks where, realistically, you don't invite her to Sweden.
No! You never, I'm sorry. If you haven't learned this lesson in your life, you never put out a trick offer. Like, you never just be like, they're probably going to say no, so I'm going to do it anyway. Don't do that.
She has nobody else. She's going to come to Sweden.
My whole family just died, and you're offering me to come to Sweden. Yeah, I'm going to come to fucking Sweden, Christian, you stupid asshole. God, I hate that stupid... Yeah, I hate him.
Ugh.
Also, he's got a punchable face.
Oh, I know.
I'm sure he's very attractive in real life, but, like, all I see is just a guy I want to...
Knock right
out.
Yeah, just connect one and just like let him have it.
And all of his friends too. I know we've said it.
Josh is like, I think the least of them because he's just very quiet. But then when he speaks up, he's very educated in a sense that I'm like, you're trying to be way too smart and I hate you.
But we need to talk about how Josh knows that this ritual will happen where these people are going to leap from a cliff.
Yeah, he's like, do you know that, stupid? And they're like, what's that? And he's like,
never mind. He chooses not to tell the woman who was just deeply traumatized by the death of her entire family that she's about to witness the death of 2
suicides.
You can rot too, Josh.
Yeah. And also, Mark, hate him.
Yeah, I honestly kind of forgot he was in this movie because his character was so relevant to me.
Do you know all the Easter eggs in this movie?
No. No. I was like, yes, and then I was like, no, I do not. No?
Shall we get into them?
Yeah.
I have so many. Well, I mean, I didn't create these. They are just ones that I have figured out and done research on. Mm-hmm. So, the first one is the mural at the beginning of the movie. When the movie starts, it is an opening shot of this beautiful mural, vibrant colors painted, and it's just like one big like flowing piece, and it all doesn't it's just kind of like everywhere. It's like hodgepodge. Mm-hmm. But this mural is the whole film, painted out.
How did I not put this together on the second watch?
I don't know. From left to right, I wrote it down. So first we have a skull watching over a princess connected by tubes to 3 people representing representing Danny's family and their death. Mm-hmm. And then we have a young man consolidating the princess while another man watches over from a tree, overhearing what he needs to do. So it's Pele watching Christian being like, she has to come and I need them all to be there. She needs to be my queen. And then we have a princess following a young man and his friends through the golden archway in the trees, leading them to people in white. One friend is also dressed up like a trickster or a jester, which is Mark. We have everyone dancing around the maypole, the bear, the people jumping off the cliff, diving into like wings, showing that they are dead, the dinner, and then the ending of like just like the flowers. And it's the whole movie plot, the first thing you see, and you don't realize that.
No.
And I love that.
What an interesting choice.
I know. And then it splits open in the middle and goes into like the cold winter scenes.
Yeah.
Also, every time I always forget, once it goes into like it goes into the singing of the woman, and it's just showing like wintry scenes, very reminiscent of where we live. It cuts to a phone ringing, and I jump every time because it's just unexpected. But then it slowly gets closer and closer into the house, which leads to another Easter egg. So when Danny's parents are laying in their bed, and they are presumably alive still, but they might be dead.
I think they're alive because you can see
their breathing like just a little bit. There's a single photo of Danny on the bedside table, and there's a little flower crown just like placed on top of it.
All of this just makes me think about how there's people in the world who are so much smarter than I'll ever be.
Right? Another one. Ready?
Okay.
So in Danny's room, where she's staying in Christian's, I'm assuming she's at Christian's place. It's kind of like the first night, she's just laying in the bed. It's like bright and sunny. He's like, hey, I'm going to go to that party. There's a painting on the wall, and it is of a little girl with a crown on holding like a bear.
I did notice that. I read that somewhere maybe.
Yeah. They were selling them at IKEA for a bit, and I was going to buy one, but I didn't.
At IKEA?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I know. Swedish.
I know. I put that together.
I just was putting it together for the listeners.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, so there's that. So then there's the love potion, which...
is pubic hair.
Yes. It's not really... That one's more just... Because some people don't realize that Christian's cup is slightly tinged orange, which has menstrual blood.
How do people not notice that?
I don't know. But
it's
then
so clear.
There's like the little pubic hair that is in his pie.
Yeah.
And that was Ari Asters' pubic hair. Fun fact.
Ew, why? Why did they have to do that? He was like, hey, just a little... There you go.
But also, like...
Now his pube is forever immortalized on screen. Good for him.
You know what? If you can't be in the movie, you can be in the movie. There is a lot of times in the movie where Danny's family members come out through the movie and, like, appear.
Yes.
The first one is when Danny is high on mushrooms and she runs into that little, like, bathroom shack kind of thing, and she sees her sister behind her with a tube. Mm-hmm. The second time, she sees her family, like, in the version of the rocks of the elderly people. Sorry, I was like, who jumped?
The elders.
Yeah, her family is there. And then she also sees them when she's crowned May Queen. They come through and their faces are a little bit warped. But one, and I showed you the photo of this.
Mm-hmm. This was crazy to me.
When Danny's being carried after she's been crowned May Queen, and she's carried on this wooden pedestal by all of the people, she's passing like a bunch of trees, and in the background, her sister's face is like embedded in the trees with the tube connecting like down. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to see. You have to pause it at the right time or just Google it, because that's probably the easiest bet.
But I will just say, because I know that we didn't explicitly state this, and if you haven't seen the movie, the carbon monoxide poisoning is done like the sister connects the tube from the exhaust of the car funnels it into the parents' bedroom under the door, and then she physically tapes the tube to her own mouth.
And she tapes the doors closed, like that. There's no
chance for anybody.
So that's why there's all these tubes constantly connected through the movie. Another one is they play a game called Skin the Fool, which essentially is just them dancing around. And it's kind of when they first arrive at the village, and they're just like, Maya kicks Christian to be like flirting with him.
As you know, underage women do when they're trying to flirt.
Yes, kick a man in front of his girlfriend and friends. So after, eventually Mark urinates on the tree and is skinned, and he is worn around the grounds, but then is dressed up like a scarecrow gesture.
Jester. Yeah.
Scarecrow gesture. They did all just gesture to him. Mark's dressed up like a scarecrow jester, and it's shown in the mural, which is foreshadowing that he is the fool.
Right. Did you notice that in like the mosaic that shows us like the love spell, that it's left
it's very
to right? No, right to left.
Yeah, it goes because we're following the camera, but the way that the story is told is like
backwards.
But it's very reminiscent of also like Japanese manga. You read the books back to front.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm surprised you did not know that.
This is me being uncultured swine.
But there's also then in Mark's house, there is a photo of a scarecrow on top of his shelf. Why not?
Very,
It's all just so much foreshadowing.
It's all very Wizard of Oz.
True. Lastly, the obvious one, the bear, seen throughout the movie so many times, and you don't put it together until the very end that they are using the bear as a conduit for Christian's body to be burned in.
Yeah, like they get there and they're like, is no one gonna acknowledge that there's a bear in the cage? Bears are fucking terrifying. And I feel like people who are not native to areas that have bears, like, don't understand. They're like, oh, bears are so cute. I'm like, they will tear your shit apart in 3 seconds flat.
Like, whenever I go camping, you gotta make sure that the food is hidden and that your garbage is locked in a container or up in the trees.
I have a really good bear story. I don't know if I'll leave this in, but have you heard it? That is
iconic.
We were camping at a music festival, and it is a place that historically bears be there.
Yeah.
Bears be milling around. And my friend was certain that there was a bear in our campsite at night. And I fully gaslit her into thinking that she was wrong. I didn't mean to. I honestly didn't think that there was a bear there. And the part of me that acknowledged that it was a possibility was also like, if I feed into this fear, this person is going to have a horrible weekend.
Yeah.
So I need to confirm to her, no, by no means was there a bear. There's way too many people around. Cut to 1 hour later, somebody camping next to us comes up. They're like, hey, did you guys know there was a bear here last night? I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Can you not right now?
You're like, I just did damage control.
I literally just spent like an hour trying to tell this person it was not possible. And then you just came in and undid all of my work. Thank you. And then that bear continued to show up for the rest of the weekend.
Amazing.
Iconic bear.
We love them.
We do.
That's mostly all the Easter eggs that I have. It's just a lot of foreshadowing. Oh, but the bear, Christian, sits in that elder's house, the like wise one. I don't know what her character...
Siv, I think is her name.
Yes. I don't know what her purpose is other than to scream.
She seems like the matriarch, sort of. If this community is based on a matriarchy, that would be her role. Like, she has her own home. She is sort of like the defined power structure. Like, she is the person, the leader.
Do you know what's interesting? And which I'm just realizing right now, we never see where the other villagers sleep. We see their like kitchen dining area and Siv's house. And then we see, like, the guest house. And
but
that's
there's
it.
Villagers in that house as well.
Yeah.
But not all of them.
No.
Definitely couldn't house all of them.
No.
Do you know anything about why they chose Sweden?
I do, actually.
Tell me.
So, in the end credits of the movie, there is a credit for the concept of Hargas by Martin Karlqvist and Patrick Anderson. And it came to fruition by Anderson, who was a Swedish producer, and the intense detail of the Harga culture and how it works in like reality. It is not Swedish history, like they aren't real people.
No.
But a lot of the things that they did are part of like Swedish cultures.
Right.
So Astor was careful, he said, to know that it is folklore, like this isn't real, but some of the stuff depicted in the movie is true. So the rituals were some sort of like historical like fact, but the oversized mallet and the older couple attempting suicide jumping off the cliff, they took the mallet and they did a replica from a museum that they saw in Stockholm. And they jumped off a cliff that was custom until not so long ago for elderly people, but mainly they were pushed.
So that's the thing that actually happened. I was very interested in that concept.
And they said that a lot of the cliffs are now historic sites for everyone to go see. And so that part, like, mostly the Astupen.
Which is the practice of these elderly people jumping from the cliff once they've reached the age of 72.
That is real.
Historically accurate. Interesting.
And the hammer.
I think what's so interesting about that is that this dichotomy between like Western culture, where obviously like Danny's sister was very mentally ill. This was a violent act and a tragedy for her to have killed herself and her parents. And I think the feelings that a person must have around a culture where it's seen as like a thing that's beautiful and also like a personal choice and empowerment in a way. It's so interesting because I feel like a real sense of moral relativism about that. Like, I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it's kind of beautiful for them to be like, and now like this is our practice, because after this point, well, 72 is quite young, but when they were trying to explain it to them, because it's so jarring the first time you see it, you're like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Because it is a steep fall.
And it's very graphic.
And they land onto a rock.
Also, why did that guy just jump feet first? Why was he like, take my feet out?
But then,
he literally pencil dived.
Yes.
Hers was worse, but at least she went quickly.
Yes. She didn't have to have any pain from what we're aware. Like, I'm assuming that hers was a very sudden death.
Yeah.
He missed the rock.
Yeah.
And lands on his legs.
He had one job.
Both of his legs snap in half. Sorry, I was just remembering that they show the close-up of the woman's face slamming into the rock.
They sure do. And then you also see it at different times throughout the movie when Danny sort of has flashbacks. But this is what I think is interesting, is that I felt so horrified by that. And then when the elder, who is coming from such a genuine place of like love and affection, it felt like, is explaining it to them, I was so soothed by it.
I know. She was like, this is like the way we do it. And she was just like very calm and like...
So I have to wonder, like, in a reality where that's a real thing that happens, if the people who have grown up with this, say you see it for the first time when you're 23 or 26 or whatever age they are, if it isn't traumatic because you have this ingrained feeling about it, or if still seeing something that is that outright gruesome is still like, oh, that was fucking terrible, because none of these people seem affected by it.
No. If you were growing up with that would be so normal.
Man, for that to be called normal seems so weird. But like, yeah, I guess it would be.
But it's like interesting because I think Josh talks about it, how like they probably think that just putting a body into a box and letting somebody grow old until they can't
take care of themselves and then rot under the ground is probably horrifying.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Culture.
I heard somebody talking about, and I didn't see this, and then I couldn't, in going through the cast, couldn't figure out who she was, but people have said that the woman who jumps looks like Florence Pugh. Did you notice this?
No, I don't think she did.
No? I didn't even look.
She's just, the woman who jumps is very soft-faced, and I think that's probably why.
She looks much younger than the man who jumped.
Yes. The man who jumps looks like he was at least...
haggard.
Yes. One thing that I found redeeming, but this is more about Jack Rayner, who plays Christian. He was supposed to put his robe back on before running out after the sex scene with Maya.
He was raped.
Yes.
That's something that I don't know that I've heard a ton about, but he was drugged before that scene and coerced into this, and that's rape.
Yes, it is.
Just want to acknowledge that.
He was supposed to put on his robe for his character to run back out.
Yeah.
But he decided, Jack, the person who plays Christian, that he thought it would make the character more vulnerable, and that there is enough nudity of women in scary movies that he decided that roles should be reversed and he can be nude for once.
I really respect that.
And decided essentially just to flip the script on it. And I was like, you know what? That is 100% true. Because every 80s to mid 2000s, nudity within women was a huge part of horror.
Well, it was always a horrified, terrified woman running around naked because like halfway through making out with some guy, some slasher walked in the room, and it's like, we don't need to see it anymore.
No.
And it's nice. The one thing that I like about the nudity of Midsommar is that nothing about this movie is sexy in any way.
No.
It's all just nudity for the purpose that nudity is natural, and in these moments a person might be naked. And also like the scene where the person is wearing Mark's face. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose was of that person being naked, but still I was like,
Well, I think that they were naked because they were wearing his whole skin.
Oh, they were wearing his entire skin?
Yeah, they were wearing his whole body.
I will just say, because I don't know if anybody else had this, that I did not clock on my first viewing that this was a person wearing Mark's skin. And then I was like, why are his eyelids behind his eyelids blinking? That's weird. They didn't fix that in post. And then I was like, oh, because that's not. Oh, yeah. Okay. Very nice.
we've had this conversation, but I follow the person who did all the prosthetics on this movie.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Everybody needs to go check out this woman's Instagram. Yes. It's insane. She does so much cool stuff.
Ooh, if I could remember her name right now. Oh, Subjective Anatomy. So it's subjective_anatomy. Andrea Cosma is the prosthetic makeup artist who did this movie and a lot of others. But if you just go through her Instagram, it is phenomenal.
The dead horses is the wildest thing I've ever seen. She made a whole bunch of fake dead horses like for a movie, corpses. And they look...
It just looks like there's a room full of horse corpses.
It's so mind-blowing.
And like all of the detail of like, there's some shots of like eyebrows or like thumbs. And it's just like, you can tell that it's silicone because like the thumb has like a silicone base around it.
Yeah.
But it just looks like a thumb that somebody posted on Instagram.
It's truly a mind-blowingly talented human.
And she did post some of the behind the scenes of Ruben, Ruben is like the oracle who sleeps in the room.
Right.
I would say that Ruben, they consider him a child.
Ruben is the purposeful product of inbreeding because they create this sort of... They have a ritual, essentially, where they inbreed to create a person who is, quote-unquote, like, pure, like an innocent person to be an oracle. And that's Ruben. Andrea,
the makeup or the prosthetic artist, posted, like, the behind the scenes of, like, making all of the prosthetics for Ruben. And that's also very interesting. So definitely go check that out because phenomenal work, and I wish I could do that. But I also don't. I think I would get too freaked out, even though I know it's fake. I would just get scared that like an eye would open.
I had a fake bloody leg under my bed for a really long time, and I
don't want to know that.
I don't really want to explain myself, but threw me for a loop a couple times.
Another thing that I found out during more just like behind the scenes research is that this movie was supposed to be way more gruesome than it was.
In terms of what?
So apparently Christian, when he finds Simon, the other outsiders,
not originally from their group, but an outsider that was there.
He was hung in this like chicken coop, and his lungs were like expanded out of his body to look like wings hung up by his skin. But Christian was supposed to apparently find Josh and Simon in the chicken coop. Josh would have been chained to the fence, his liver hanging out of his body, covered in chicken feed, being pecked at by the chickens. And then there would have been a jump scare revealing that he was still alive and he's gasping for air.
Oh, no. I'm glad they didn't have that.
And then instead of Simon's lungs still inhaling while he was hung from the ceiling, he was supposed to be hung from his heel.
Oh.
And so, like, his
The imagery that they... Of the actual shot is much better. I really like it.
Because it's also just, like, it's so confusing.
Yeah, it takes you a second to figure out
who it is, what is happening. Is that a person? It's a lot. It's a lot to go through. I also like that we never find out what happened to Connie.
You don't.
She just goes, and then she comes back because she's dead. I'm assuming that she was just obviously killed because she tried to escape.
Yes, because they had to kill her counterpart, and so she was going to figure something out.
Yeah.
The lungs and all of that, it's very reminiscent of Hannibal. Did you ever watch Hannibal, the series?
I think I started, but I never finished it.
There's a scene that's very, very similar. Yeah.
So I have some unanswered questions.
Okay.
That I want your opinion on.
Yeah.
I noticed this watching the movie, and I've tried to Google it, and I've only just seen things on Reddit where people have also been like, how has nobody else talked about this? But there are 2 points in this movie where a character breaks the fourth wall. So the first one is there's a young cult member who's like a child. It's right before the 2 elderly people jump off the cliff. And what he does is it's just like, we're kind of like as an outside viewer watching this as if we were there. And this young child literally just turns back and looks directly at the camera.
Yes.
And goes back. And then a second time, Christian casts a glance at the lens when he sits down for the ritual. It's almost like, are you watching this, like, happening? Do you think that, like, it's supposed to be anything else from this? Or just, like, that we are not just observers of this film, but we're also present in this film?
There's no rule to say that you can't break the fourth wall.
True.
And there's no rule to say that breaking the fourth wall implicitly means X, Y, and Z. However, I would think that based upon those 2 moments, that it is one of those things of creating a connection to the audience almost in a way of guilt. Like, that's what that makes me feel like. If the child specifically looking back at you right before this horrifying thing happens makes me feel like it's trying to draw you in as, like you said, not a viewer, but a person present for the actual act.
Also, thinking about it, it's kind of weird, but it's like we as the viewers are like the only ones on the outside who are like leaving alive.
Yeah.
Like when you
Oh
really
God,
think, like
that's rough. Yeah.
when you think about it, it's like every outsider who has come in to watch these things that are happening are
Gone.
dead.
Yeah.
Other than Danny.
I think it's so interesting that they have like Amish people, like a Rumspringa, like they leave. That's why
Yeah.
Pele is able to bring them in. I wonder if that is, well, no, it can't be, because this ceremony only happens every 90 years. But it happens to coincide with other rituals that are happening at the same time that do happen annually. But I was thinking, I wonder if they only leave for the purposes of bringing other people in, but I guess that wouldn't be it. This just happens to be the year that they needed them to do that.
I believe, though, that they do leave to bring people in. Because let me tell you, when I was in grade 12, we had a student in our class, and for the sake of the story, his name is Evan.
Okay.
He was, I don't know, pretty popular in school, pretty, you know, active in a lot of like sports and whatever. At one point, this girl came to our school. People always come to the school like to start mid-year, whatever. And they started having a relationship, Evan and this girl. And then one day he was just gone. And everyone was like, has anybody seen Evan? Like, he hasn't been in school in who knows how long. A couple weeks later, we find out that Evan's friend, John,
Okay.
John's parents and Evan's parents are really good friends.
Right.
Evan's parents tell John's parents that he was taken into this cult.
Okay, wait. So even Evan's parents don't know where he is?
They know that he is in this cult.
Okay.
They've taken all of his banking information. They have taken all of his like...
What?
and
He's a
but
child.
He just like up and left with this woman because apparently these women are sent out to bring men back into this cult.
Okay, well, they're not women, they're children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cut to first year university. My friend and I are walking around campus.
Yeah.
And we see Evan walking towards us with this woman. And I literally was like,
Evan.
I was like, you're alive. But I didn't like, I wasn't friends with him that much.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my God.
But they're still living some semblance of a regular existence, obviously, if they're going to school. So it's not like she like stowed him away somewhere where he has no access to society.
Well, they took all of his banking. They took all of his income. They have his social security.
What fucking income does a high schooler have?
I don't know, but then they must make him go get a job to provide
Right.
income.
What
Anyway,
is
so
this?
I know. Crazy story.
Yeah.
So it's similar to where like
The thing that it feels so different, I guess, with that and then something like what's happening in Midsommar is the thing that happened to the guy that you went to school with is very nefarious because clearly someone has manipulated this young woman into going into the school to infiltrate somebody and bring them in, which is insane. In this, it's like, this is their way of life. And here's why I don't think that they're being sent out to bring people in. So they have a conversation about inbreeding within the commune. And they say like, no, we have people that come in and we kind of like swap to make sure that there is no inbreeding happening besides the purposeful ritual for the oracle. There's nobody on that commune that is not Swedish. So they're not going into America and bringing people back. And there is a colony, I guess you could call it, a religion near here, and they do the same thing. They're not bringing in people from the outside. They're just swapping with people who of the same religion who live in a different place in order to prevent inbreeding. So I don't think it's the same type of like acquiring people for a cult for the purposes of indoctrinating them. I think it's just, mostly that they are swapping around each other, and they must just give these people the opportunity to go out into the real world for a while to experience it and then come back. And then every 90 years, they've got to send somebody out to acquire 4 people or more.
my last question as a viewer and for you, we talked about how there must be 9 people who are sacrificed. So we have the 4 people who were from the commune.
Right.
The 2 who sacrificed themselves. And we had 4 outsiders, which were Connie, Simon, Mark, Josh. And then 1 final choice is from the May Queen, which was Christian. However, when we are seeing the people being placed into the temple and before it burns, there's 2 people who are like trees.
I think that's Simon and Connie.
If we have Simon and Connie,
Yeah.
Mark, Josh,
Right.
Christian,
Yeah.
and the 2 people who are the other 2.
I think the elders who leap from the rock.
Because I also read that that some people thought it was the people who jumped, but it couldn't be them because their heads were smashed in.
Oh, I don't know.
And then they were burned in the fire?
I don't know. This is not something I thought about. That seems like a huge plot hole if it's not something that we're just very clearly missing.
Right? And well, it's interesting because they're in the background when Danny is picking the last people.
Right.
Who are these locals?
I'm going to figure this out.
I'm on horrorfandom.com.
Yeah.
And it just says list of deaths in Midsommar. And it's just villagers is 10 and 11. The reason of their death is unexplained. It's not an on-screen death, and the killer was one of the cult members, and they're just one of the 9 sacrifices. So it's just like this weird, ambiguous, like, who are these people?
You know, I just assumed that these were people that we knew, and I didn't think too much about it.
Well, I also thought that they were the old people, because I was like, oh, that makes sense. But this sacrifice only happens every 90 years, but people turn 72 every year. So it can't be...
This is really going to bother me. I'm so annoyed that I also didn't think about this.
Another website just says male and female cultists burned in the teepee, the fire temple by the other cultists.
Fine then. That's what it is.
Ari Asters.
It must just be 2 people. You know, it could just be as simple as it's 2 people who volunteered, just like the 2 guys who were in there. And then for whatever reason beforehand, they have to prepare their bodies in some way.
Yeah.
And we just don't see that.
I just wonder if there was maybe more. It's not in the director's cut. Oh, yeah, by the way, there's a director's cut. Which, there's not much more to it. There's another, like, ritualistic kind of scene, which takes place at night, but majority of it is building on Christian's gaslighting to Danny, even though she does not need more of that.
No, I think she's good. I think the girl's suffered enough.
Yes. In total, there is 16 deaths in this movie. Interesting.
That tracks.
Mm-hmm. On this kill count, it says cultists have 12, and there's 1 shared kill, which is, I'm assuming, Christian.
Yeah.
But then Terry, her sister, has 3. She's the next highest kill count.
She is technically a serial killer if you can count yourself in your own body count.
Yes.
I kept thinking about how do they get away with this? It's not like people don't know that they went to Sweden.
I mean, Danny has no one.
No, but the families of Christian, Josh, Mark, these people know that they went to Sweden.
True, but they also drove like 5 hours away from Stockholm.
Well, they were on mushrooms. And they really did try to prevent the leaking of any sort of information. But there has to be some sort of backstory that Pele is telling people that is deeply untrue to sort of cover the commune or the cult's tracks. Because otherwise,
well, yeah, you
they're
have
fucked. And how do you trust that the person that you crown as May Queen isn't in, I don't know, 3 weeks when she's not drugged to shit, gonna be like, hey, actually, I don't want to live
with you guys
in this bunker where, like, there's probably not super running water and everyone's putting their pubes in our food.
I mean, it kind of sounds fun.
Yeah, it sounds great.
I kind of want to go. Make your own clothes. Living on a commune literally sounds like a dream at this point.
Every once in a while, I'm like, someone just take me. I don't have to have a job. I don't have to do anything. I just gotta peel some potatoes.
I can cultivate mushrooms and peel potatoes 24/7. And if I just get to, like, bring some, like, literature, sold.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Someone recently told me that I'm far too neurotic to be
I see it already.
Effectively human trafficked. I think I'm far too neurotic to be a part of a commune.
I feel like you could lead a commune, is what it is.
I think I could too.
Don't kill us all, please.
No, I wouldn't do that. I can't live with that guilt, but, well. Tell me about the first time you saw this movie. That's the one thing we haven't covered yet, and I would like to know.
First time I saw this movie, I remember just kind of being in shock.
Yeah.
Because it was like, whoa. All so unexpected. I don't know, it's like the family was unexpected. It was very similar to Hereditary, where it's like the trailer does not equal the movie.
Right. Like, this whole backstory with Danny's family is not something that you can infer going into it. Because the first time I saw it in theaters, and I was so thrown and horrified by that beginning. I didn't 100% consider leaving, but I did have that moment of, and this is ruined for me, and I don't really want to watch the rest of the movie. And then that tonal shift as soon as they get into Sweden is so strong, it got better.
I just remembered, so the next morning after I went and watched Midsommar, I went and saw it July 4th, 2019.
The day after my birthday.
Wow, great. Thank you for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Because I've been meaning to ask you what day your birthday is.
July 3rd.
Thank you. But I tweeted no one and then me watching Midsommar, and it's just 2 things being like, your heart rate rose above 120 while you seem to be inactive for 10 minutes.
Is that real?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
This was also during a point where, well, no, I was medicated at this point, I would say, but I was scared. I was like, I don't know what's happening.
It's really disturbing. It's a really uncomfortable movie to watch. I really liked it, but
The fact that I was inactive because I was just sitting and my
Right.
heart rate was at 120 because I was terrified.
Sorry. I liked this movie. I really like it, but I didn't want to watch it a second time.
Oh yeah, I was like, who's coming back with me? I think I saw it in the theater 3 times in total.
Yeah, you have a lot more staying power than I do. I was like, great, noted. I'm good.
Very rarely do I love going back to a theater to watch a movie a second time. Like, I can hold off waiting till, like, it gets released digitally or I can go buy it physically. But this movie, Mother and A Star is Born, I've seen in the theater multiple times.
I went to Ocean's 8 3 times.
Of course you would. That is right up your alley.
It is just women in suits.
I went and saw A Star is Born in theaters 5 times.
I've still not seen that movie. Do you want me to go?
I would like you to pack up and leave.
Okay. Yeah.
I love that movie so much.
Here's the thing. I've seen the original, so I've always known how it ends. And a part of me is like, I just don't think I need to see this story. Like, it feels so heartbreaking.
It is. It is very heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
it's just like, 1, Bradley Cooper in this movie is phenomenal.
Yeah.
2, my
Lady-
mother
I
is
know,
in it,
I
Lady
know.
Gaga.
Yeah, I know.
And I really, really like the soundtrack of it. So please watch.
All right, I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with this movie? I feel like this episode was a little scattered, but it's because it's not really a movie where it's not a movie that I care to go beat by beat through. It's just got so many like little things here and there that are interesting to talk about.
I think the one thing that I want to end on is A24 put out merch for Midsommar, and they sold a toy bear in a cage. And I would just like to let anybody know who's listening that I will pay some good money. I tried. I was on those pre-orders, and they went out so bad.
Anybody who's listening, send this out to your friends, your family, your loved ones, your lovers, your coworkers. Let them know Zac is on the lookout.
For a bear in a cage toy.
Please.
It is so adorable. They made a funny commercial for it.
Oh, I saw it. I remember that.
I really wanted one.
I'm really sorry that you didn't get one. I'll find one for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think like having that in my house, I'm kind of tearing up thinking about it. Having that in my house would make my mental health stable.
Do you think that would create serotonin for you every day?
Yes, if I woke up, and I think I would leave it by like my front door actually, and so I could say hello and goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I do have...
You have a living animal in your house that you get to do that with, but yeah.
Yes. He's just not a bear in a cage. Let's rate this movie.
Okay, let's do it. Scary. I want to hear your opinion because you are against the people who say it's not.
I gave it a 6.
Okay.
I think it's deeply disturbing.
Yes.
But it's not scary. There's nothing, like the phone call really made me jump and was like, left me like frightened. But when I left this movie, it was more of a sense of relief and happiness, in my personal opinion, than I did leaving Hereditary. And it's weird that we have to keep comparing it to Ari Asters' other works, but they're just so similar, but not.
No, it's just
a nice clutch to be like, I can compare it to this, even though it stands by itself.
I'm going to give it a 3. But then when we go now into lasting unsettling, I will give it like an 8.
I gave it a 9. Story.
It's incredible. It's very, very well put together. I love this story. I'm going to give it a 9 or a 10.
I gave it a 10.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't seen The Wicker Man, it felt very original to me.
Don't get me wrong, when I compare this movie to The Wicker Man, it's not the same. It's deeply original. I'm not saying that they've taken anything from that. It's just one of the few movies that's faux core that I have to compare to.
Overall.
Ooh, I'm going to give this... it's Paper Cut or a Bloody Massacre. You go first.
Well, this is my Bloody Massacre.
Yeah, I know
This is the full knocked it out of the park for me. I feel like you're one step away from hitting the rock.
That's exactly what it is. I'm a pencil dive to the rock that didn't quite make it.
Yeah, but it's awful.
Oh, it's terrible. Mallet, it becomes a Bloody Massacre. It just isn't.
Why did they have to hit him 3 times?
So much. And like, I really was so uncomfortable. I forgot how much wailing there is in this movie. Something that I did want to talk about that I didn't end up bringing up is I really want to know what the significance of breath in this movie is, because there's so much focus on like that and like, you know, does that have something to do with Danny's family? Like how, well, they're not breathing, but that's not, you know, that's how they went out.
Well, I think like they help, well, specifically when they're talking and crying.
Yeah.
I think that they're just showing like that they are one group and that they will take their pain and make it theirs.
Yes. However, it's only in specific instances.
Yes.
It's only when it's pertaining to their actions and pain and like a product of what they've done, because Danny cries throughout the movie and other people have emotional reactions to things that just kind of fly by the radar. In this, like they commune to be like, and what you're feeling, I guess I'm feeling, when all the naked women are around that young girl.
Nope, we're just gonna skip
moaning.
over it.
Not into that.
There's also that's a soundtrack song.
Is it?
Yeah, there's a title for it. A Chorus of Sirens.
Of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's your bloody massacre. This is what you compare all. This is your pinnacle.
Mm-hmm. Like, this is like one of those movies that like I will throw on.
I know you
bed.
do. It's so fucked up. Like, you've been like, I don't know, I had Midsommar on today. I was like, really? Because I've avoided that movie since I've seen it.
Yeah, like I like watching the director's cut, little bits of it the other day, and I called my mom. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, watching Midsommar." She's like, "Again?
Yeah.
By yourself also?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like a feel-good movie in the summer."
It's my hot girl summer movie.
Yeah, it really was.
When did this come out? 2 years ago?
Almost 3 now.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, almost 2. Sorry, we're in 2021.
Yeah. Well, we
That's
love
it.
it. So I think that's it.
That's it. That's all. That is my favorite movie, my favorite horror movie of all time.
Thank you for explaining it to me.
You're welcome.
If you guys would like, you can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Podcassacre. You can send us an email at thebloodypodcassacre@gmail.com. You can follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe, comment over there, leave us a rating or review on iTunes. We really appreciate it. That's all the things that you can do for us.
And get me a bear in a cage. Thank you.
Yes, that too. And until next time.
Let the festivities begin.